Good evening, all. A warm welcome to all of you to the third day of Faculty Development Program of St. Mary's College, Pithanangadi, themed on effective teaching strategies in higher education. Let's begin the session with a prayer.
ಮೃದು ಕೋಮಳಧರಣಿ ತನ್ಮೀದೆ ಹರಿದ വർണ്ണോജ്വലലതകളിലാകെ മണമൂലും സൂനങ്ങൾ അഴകോടെ ചാർത്തും അഖില ലോകനാഥ കൈതൊഴാം ഞങ്ങളീ കൂപ്പുകൈമുട്ടുകളാലേ മംഗളഗാനങ്ങൾ അർച്ചന ചെയ്കെ മതികവരും ആനന്ദം ചേർക്കണേ ദേവാ മനതാരിലെന്നെന്നും മംഗളരൂപ പരിമൃദു കോമളധരണി തന്മീതെ ഹരിത വർണ്ണോജ്വലലതകളിലാകെ മണമൂലും സൂനങ്ങൾ അഴകോടെ ചാർത്തും അഖില ലോകനാഥ കൈതൊഴാം ഞങ്ങൾ.
Yesterday, we had a great session on the role of ICT and use of technologies in teaching and learning. For the third day, we have the topic Best Practices in Learner-Centered Teaching, which will be dealt by our esteemed resource person, Dr. Anne Baby. I cordially invite Ms. Sona from the Department of Maths, St. Mary's College, for the welcome address.
Thank you, Sneha ma'am. Am I visible and audible, Sneha ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So good evening all. Thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. I am extremely delighted to address you all. It has been long believed that the most important resources that any institution of higher education has is its faculty members who teach knowledge and skills to the students. But the most practiced teacher-centered learning have been switched into student-centered learning. And in the present scenario, especially in the online teaching platform, both teachers and learners are facing many challenges. On the third day of our faculty development program, Effective Teaching Strategies in Higher Education, we are gathered here to learn the best practices in learner-centered teaching to overcome these challenges. First and foremost, I welcome our college principal, Reverend Father Denis Schoneblil, who is a strong pillar of the St. Mary's family. Welcome, Father. I am very much honored and feel gratitude to welcome our guest, our resource person, Dr. Anne Baby, Assistant Professor in School of Computer Sciences, Rajagiri College, who is well-experienced personage in various fields of education and is here to enumerate the best practices in learner-centered teaching. Welcome, ma'am. Whatever the event is, it is said to be successful only if there are a bunch of participants. With immense pleasure, I welcome each and every participants gathered here from all over the country. Welcome you all. Lastly, I'm very much happy to welcome all my colleagues. And also I thank the organizing team to give me an opportunity to speak in this occasion. So once again, I welcome you all on the third day of Faculty Development Program to know the best practices in learner-centered teaching. Thank you.
Thank you, Sona ma'am. Today, we have with us Dr. Anne Baby. Dr. Anne Baby holds a doctorate in computer science from Bharatiya University. She is currently an assistant professor in School of Computer Sciences, Rajagiri, College of Social Sciences, Cochin. With more than 17 years of teaching experience in the postgraduate level, she has to her credit several research papers published in reputed national and international journals. Her latest publication being Network Path Analysis for Developing an Enhanced TAM Model, a user-centric e-learning perspective, published in the journal Computers in Human Behavior in June 2020. She has also successfully completed a UGC-funded minor research project, a study on neural networks in financial forecasting using clustering. She has conducted training programs for NEC Communications Japan and the Dubai Port World. She is a lifetime member of the CSI, Computer Society of India. Welcome, ma'am, and you may begin your session now.
Thank you, Sneha. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the principal of St. Mary's College, Puthanangadi, Father Denny, the IQAC coordinator, Mr. Biju, and the very energetic organizing team for organizing this 7-day workshop on effective learning strategies. I would even like to congratulate each of the participants who are all of you who are excellent, energetic, vibrant teachers in the various phases of your career. I might be a junior faculty compared to many of you, but I would like to share things on learner-centered teaching. Sneha, can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am, you may share your screen.
Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. In case my voice goes down or I have a issue in my audio, please let me know. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, we'll be letting you know.
Okay. And participants, feel free to post in your questions into the chat box. As and when the session is over, I would be taking up each question one by one and trying to answer more than a question answer session. It will be nice if we have a discussion. So I will be talking today on best practices in learner-centered teaching. The session contents would be, I would give you an introduction about what is learner-centered teaching. We can argue upon whether it can be considered as a best practice or not. And then the third part would be a question answer session. Now, in the very recent World Economic Forum in 2021, they put across a new vision for education, telling that students, they need more than something than the traditional academic learning. They came to a conclusion that students are fed up. Students are really fed up with the traditional academic learning, and they want something which includes collaboration, communication, and problem solving, which is developed to social and emotional learning. So we will have this particular findings of the World Economic Forum in our mind when we go through the various points in this particular session. Now, if you look into the history of education, it can be traced to more than 3,000 years ago with the Sumerians, when they came out with something called a written language. They started writing on the caves and on parchments and all that long back in 3,500 BC. And then after that, the Chinese, they were the people who came out with the concept of formal schools. And it was in 550 BC that Confucius, the great philosopher of that time, he came up with a concept called questions and answers. Somebody would ask a question and then the others would answer it. And then there would be a debate, an argument, and so on. So those were the initial ways in which learner-centered teaching was in the early days. Later, after that, Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher, 470 BC, he came up with the very famous Socratic dialogue, a kind of dialogue between the student and the teacher. All of you might have heard about Socratic dialogues and even Plato's dialogues. As you all know, Plato was Socrates' disciple, and then they always had these heated kind of arguments. This is an artwork of Socrates and his pupils, and you can see Plato onto his right side. There were arguments always between Plato and Socrates, and that came out as Socratic dialogues and Plato's dialogue. And what Socrates followed was like, he made his students question him. Rather than he questioning the students, Socrates had the habit of making Plato and the other disciples question him, he trying to give an answer and he making the disciples think about it or reflect on it. So earlier in those days itself, Socrates, the great philosopher of those days, he brought about a pattern of critical thinking, reasoning, and logic. These are actually the basics of learner-centered teaching, where the teacher gives the students freedom to question or take part in an argument. And then later we had, in the 16th, 17th century, we had John Locke, who came out with the tabula rasa theory. Tabula, as you all know, means a slate or a board. The tabula rasa theory, it states that every person's mind is an empty blank slate. And then it is our duty in our journey of life. You see your surroundings, you talk with others, and then you fill it with adventures, experiences, reflections, and that is how you get learnings. And it was at this point of time, late back 16th, 17th century, that a concept called experience-based education. You get things from around your surroundings, and then you fill your empty slate of mind. That is where the initial concept of experiential learning came up. And after that, we had the famous Genevian philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was a very, very famous contributor to learner-centered teaching. In his very famous book called Emily, Emily actually means the child, he had written a book in 1762, Emily on Education. In that, he emphasizes the importance of teachers interacting with students, and even the vice versa. Students questioning the teachers, talking with them, discussing with them, discovering new things, drawing conclusions from your own experiences. And it was Rousseau who tried to state that each student is an individual, and that is why we came up with terms like individual attention to a student. You cannot treat a class as a group. Each student is an individual, and that is why we need to give an individual attention. Onto your right hand, what you see is, it is the first page of Rousseau's MLA on Education, the first page of the book. And now let us find out what is the difference between teacher-centered or teacher-directed and learner-centered teaching. As we all know, the traditional method is teacher-centered or teacher-directed. You have didactic teaching, where the teacher, he directly comes to the class, tells you a theory, you mug it up, the student mug it up, write it down, and then do problems according to the given theory. But in learner-centered, what happens is student explores and find answers to a particular question. In teacher-centered, you have these short blocks of instruction which are pertained to only a single discipline or a single subject, wherein learner-centered, students, they are free. They can go around, they can have multidisciplinary kind of exploration, they can link subjects, they can think from it, and it is an active and interactive mode where students, they interact with the teacher, students, they interact with their peer, they interact with the community, they do collaborative work, it's cooperative. In teacher-centered, we always think that teacher is the only source of knowledge. We always consider ourselves or our teachers as the epitome of knowledge. In learner-centered, teachers are just a facilitator or a guide. They tell you what to do, but they don't tell you how to do it. How to do it is the responsibility of the student. And now, after learner-centered, we are now actually into a technological-centered. We do have only online classes now, even though the government say that colleges can be opened, there are hindrances for that. So now we've gone to a much more learner-centered, technological kind of a teaching. Now, there are similarities, even though we talked about a lot of differences between teacher-centered and learner-centered teaching, there still exist similarities between teacher-centered and learner-centered. The objective of both is to teach the student, and the student should understand the concept. And of course, When the student goes wrong, the teacher should be correcting him. And of course, the teacher will look to the student's work, assess him, give exams and feedback. So even though there are differences between teacher-centered and learner-centered, both the end result is the same. The student should be understanding the concept with the guidance of the teacher. Now, even though we tell all this, for our students, Google is their epitome of knowledge, or one more teacher whose immense contribution cannot be ignored. Now, that is why Rumi, Elizabeth Lesser has given a quote that all of you know Rumi. Rumi called his teacher the friend. The path to good teaching is always we should be viewing our students as a traveling companion. You can imagine, like, you with your students together are going on a journey for knowledge. You should be knowing more about your students. You should know how they learn. What are their learning capabilities? What they learn? Under what conditions are they learning? Do they have conditions which are inducive to learn? Are they retaining all what you tell? Are they applying the learning? So very rightly, Rumi said, teachers are to be called friends of students. Now, before we go more into, let's analyze whether we are good teachers or not. All of us, we are good teachers. We are very good teachers in different phases of our teaching career. So let's just analyze whether we are a good teacher or not. So I've just listed out a few points over here. Sensitivity to and concern with class level and progress. When I read out each point, just analyze whether you are a yes or no for that. Preparation and organization of the course. Whether you know the subject thoroughly, whether you have an enthusiasm for the subject and a passion for teaching. Are you very clear with the subject? Do you understand everything well? And are you able to convey all this to your students? Whenever they ask you a doubt or a problem, or even when they come up with a personal issue, are you available for them? Are you helping them? Are you biased or not? How is your partiality, the impartiality of the evaluation? What is the quality of examinations? Now, by quality of examinations, it means many things. If you have 5 modules in your paper, do you give questions equally from all the 5 modules? So there are several studies which say that there should be equal distribution among all the modules, and you should not be giving an examination on only one pattern, like not only a written theory exam. It should be a combination of many techniques. You can have an MCQ, you can have an online, you can have a Viva, you can have a project, you can have a case study. So your examination, it should be the culmination of all of these. So anyway, we'll just have it a bit more interactive. So in a chat box, simply type a yes or a no. Are you a good teacher? Type me a yes or a no. Do you feel that you are a good teacher? You are a good teacher if all these 7 are satisfied. Manoj sir, very good. Yes, 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 yes. All of us are good teachers. All of us are good teachers. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent. All of us, yeah, all of us are good teachers. We teach for our students. But what we should be doing is, how can we make a good teaching better? Good is always the enemy of best. You should be the best. Not only the good, you should be the best. So let's analyze ourselves. I'll just give you a small activity over here. You'll have to even type in a yes or no truthfully, again in your chat box. Have you ever gone for a session or a seminar or a talk anywhere, and have you felt that it's boring?
Excuse me, ma'am, your video is stuck. Ma'am, are you facing some technical issues? Participants, please wait. Our resource person will come back to the session.
Thank you for your patience. She will be joining us soon.
I'm really sorry. There was a problem at my end over here.
It's okay, ma'am. You're visible now.
Just a minute. Apologies. Okay, so we'll continue. So we were talking like this, like, have you ever attended a session where you felt that you should get out of the session at some point of time? So could you just type in a yes or a no in your chat box? Okay, yes. Okay, good, good. Yes. Okay, so yes, a few of you have felt that you have attended a session and then you've always felt you wanted to walk out of it. Let's analyze. Have our students ever felt that in art class, they simply do not get out of the class simply because you are the boss over there? And that could be a reason where, all these kind of trolls come up on Teachers' Day, the Best Teacher Award. Overall, it goes to Google, YouTube for video category, Wikipedia for project reports, Stack Overflow if you're teaching a computer science subject, and DeviantArt if you're doing designing. Okay. Now, why is high quality teaching not assured in institutions? A reason could be administrative decisions, because when the administrators, they're not too much interested in pedagogy. They might be having other interests. Lack of institutional support. It could be in terms of kind, like technology, or it could be in terms of your salary. Lack of recognizing learning styles of individual students. Each individual student has a different learning style. Recognizing the learning style of a student is the ability of a teacher. We will go into that later. At the end of the day, this is the truth. You teach a lot of things. I've taught Snoopy how to whistle, but nobody hears Snoopy whistling because you just taught him. Snoopy never learned anything. The same way, even in our class, we teach a lot of things to our students, but how much they have learned? Do we ever make sure that our students learn? We teach. We make it sure that our syllabus is over during the 4-month period. The exams are conducted, assignments done, everything. But how can we assure that our students have learned? Well, that is where learner-centered education comes in. Learner-centered education, the main 2 strong foundations, one is quality education. Quality education is SDG, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, providing quality education to all. And it should promote learning. Right to education and promotion of learning. Now let's see, what do you mean by learner-centered teaching? As I told you, focus moves away from the teacher to the student. It's a paradigm shift. Less of us and more of them. It starts with the teacher. It focuses on the student, and you allow the students. You give them freedom in the class. Let them share themselves in the decision making. You should be able to believe in their capacity to lead, and it remembers how it feels to learn. Now let's see how a learner-centered classroom looks like. It looks like a very collaborative, cooperative, and active, colorful class. You include the students in planning your co-schedule, how it is implemented, the assessments, you make them play a role in doing the assessments. And you as a teacher, you should be comfortable with changing their leadership style from directive to consultative. We always have this autocratic kind of do as I say. You should be submitting. I will reduce your marks. I will fire you. I will do this. I will do that. Rather than that, based on your need, let's do this. Okay, if you are comfortable to do this, let's do that. If you are comfortable with case studies, we'll have case studies. If none of you are interested in doing an online quiz, we'll have a theory exam. Okay, so you're moving the focus from the teacher to the student. And you should be believing in the student's capacity to lead. Give them charge of activities. Give them a case study. Let them take over it. Let them control it. Let them divide themselves into group. Reduce the teacher direct instructions. Reduce your theory classes a lot. Let them learn by themselves. Give interest-based choices. Give a genius hour. Once in a week, you can give an hour. If all of them, they want to build up a collage, give freedom to build up a collage. If they're interested in making up videos on a particular subject, give them the freedom. If they're interested in making a game out of a particular topic, give them the freedom to do it. Let them bring out the genius in them. By doing such kind of small things, you can
Excuse me, ma'am, your video and audio is stuck again. Ma'am, you have to unmute. Your audio is not audible.
Okay. So Dr. Michelle Schubert, she has done a lot of research on learner-centered teaching, and she's given 7 principles of how to make teacher-centered practices more learner-centered. Make it engaging, motivate the students to learn, have a mutual respect between teachers and learners, build up on the students' prior knowledge. Have an authentic dialogue. Use a lot of open questions. Take questions from the students. Try answering it. You need not answer everything because you need not consider yourself as a walking encyclopedia. If you do not know the answer, tell them that you could come up with the answer tomorrow. You could check on it. Not at all an issue. Make sure that the curriculum is relevant to the current day, to their current lives. And it should be based on skills and attitudes. These are the basic 7 principles where we can make teacher-centered practices more learner-centered. And of course, the last thing is assessment. Assessment is very, very important in learner-centered teaching. Now, we should be shifting the focus of activity from teachers, which we do in traditional learning. As we all know, in traditional teaching, the professor goes on lecturing, and the poor students, they sit listening. And as I told you earlier, they just listen for the sake of listening. And look into the cartoon over there. That student tells, I stopped listening after 5 minutes. What a bore. And then you have half of the class sleeping. And also you're very particular that, students, they have to work individually. You always say, submit individual assignments. Don't copy from your friend. Don't discuss with your friend. Okay, we give all those kind of petty rules with this, which the students, they will not at all agree. No, we should be going or shifting to learner-centered teaching methods. They focus upon active learning. Let the students be active in the class. Let them ask you questions, open-ended questions. You should be able to answer it. Give them opportunity for cooperative learning. Let them join in groups and let them learn. Their assignments, let them do it together. Let them cooperate on their homeworks. Inductive teaching, let them learn from the environment. Let them learn from the problems around it. Let them learn from the life around. So these are the focus points of learner-centered teaching methods: active learning, cooperative learning, and inductive teaching and learning. Now you might be thinking, if all this is there, what is the role of the faculty? Faculty need not go to class. The students, they are doing all this. Why should you go to the class? Isn't it? So that is why researchers, they've come up with ESR. You should be encouraging the active role of the students. You should shift from being a knowledge provider. Do not give them everything. Do not give them everything. Be a facilitator, be a guide, and let them do self-discovery. And replace the old conventional teaching methods where you grind everything and put it into the mouth. Give them whole grains. Let them grind it, let them chew it, and then let them learn by themselves. Okay. We always see, like, when you ask your relatives for recipes, they detail the recipe for you, but one small thing they will leave out, so that your dish, it never comes as perfect as their dish. But then what you do is you try to develop on it, and then at the end of the day, the next time you make it, yours will always be better than your relative's dish. So you could think of it like that: encourage, shift, and replace. ESR. Encourage, shift, and replace. Okay, so let's see if you're with me. Kindly expand ESR, anybody, onto your chat box. ESR. Okay, I'll just quickly go show my slide once again. ESR. Anybody? ESR. You can type over there. What is E? Encourage. Perfect. Encourage, replace, and shift. Yeah. Encourage, shift the focus, and then replace your old teaching. Now, we all know that lecture classes, they are the epitomes of human egoism. You are there in front of the class. The board is all yours. The class is all yours. It is the teacher's egoism which works over there. You expect nobody to talk. You say pin drop silence. Pin drop silence in my class. You go on teaching. You are never bothered whether the other person over there is recepting your knowledge or not. But In learner-centered teaching, you just don't teach. You give them pointers and then you teach them how they should be learning. Now, in traditional classrooms, if you look, these students, they depend on teachers for everything. At the end of the class, they'll ask, ma'am, could you please give me your notes? Could you please mail me your notes? Could you mail me your PPT? Have you come across situations like that? At the end of the class, just type a yes or no. At the end of the class or at the end of the semester, just before the exam, students ask, ma'am, your PPT, please. Ma'am, PDF, please. Ma'am, notes, please. Isn't it? Yes. You're spoiling them, isn't it? All of you are spoiling the students. You're not giving them an opportunity to learn by themselves. You are spoon feeding everything. That is traditional teaching. And we all have this feeling that, your students are so excited about my class, about the class. Okay, you go into the class and you say, oh, I'm so excited to teach today's topic. Today's topic is the best topic in this module. Today, I'm going to teach you about syntax analysis, which is the most important thing in compiler design. And then by the time you finish up that, half of the class is sleeping. Okay, because they know that you are going to talk about algorithms. You are going to prove the complexity over there. You are going to do grammar. Okay, I'm talking with respect to computer science because, I know nothing else about other than computer science. I know no other subject. So that is why I'm giving you examples from computer science. Okay, so all of us are under the feeling that students are so excited about your class. But, if you truthfully ask the students, they might not be as excited as you are about the class. So let's think about a few activities, a few learner-centered approach activities. Let them work in groups. Have stage presentations. Okay, in the class, let them come to the stage. Let them develop content by their own. Give them the blackboard. Let them use it. Let them develop the content. Hold a competition in the class. Give a chocolate. Students will be very happy in the class when they get a 10 rupee dairy milk. It is not going to cost you anything. Hold a competition. Give a small prize. Hold a debate in the class on a particular topic. You can have an argument like, is binary search efficient than some other searching technique or a sorting technique? Each subject you can come up with a small debate. It could just might be a 3, 4, 5 minutes, but still you can gamify learning. We have lots of tools nowadays. You have Kahoot, your Mentimeter, your whatnot. You can gamify it. Nowadays, majority of the students, they are excellent app developers. Give them a topic, be it any subject. They will develop an excellent app for you. Pose a problem. Let them find out the answer. Why are you always adamant that you should be giving the answer? Let them give the answer. Do a role play. Brainstorm. Let them brainstorm. Let them brainstorm. Do a demo. Rather than you giving theory, for example, if you're a science teacher, rather than explaining the theory, you can quickly do an experiment in the class. Much more learning happens over there. So these are a few ways in which you can do these learner-centered approaches. Let them cooperate on homework and class assignments. As I told you earlier, all of us are very adamant. Nobody should be copying. The moment you say that, everybody will copy, isn't it? The moment you say nobody should copy, everybody is sure to copy for the assignment. Okay. Try giving them different assignments and then let them cooperate. Give them a very hard question so that they cooperate, brainstorm their ideas and come out with a good solution. If you have a 9 to 10 class, don't be adamant that from 9 to 10, you will be writing on the board and you will be teaching. Set apart some time for the students. Let them brainstorm. Let them do activities. Let them have a stage play. Let them do a role play. Let them hold a competition. Let them do a debate. Give time for the students. Let them come out with their ideas on that same topic which you taught in class. They might be bringing better ideas than each of us. As you all know, our students, they are nowadays, the generation of students, they are born into the lap of Google technology. They know much more better than us. When I go to a computer science class and I teach a programming language, I know that majority of the students in front of me, they develop apps on their own. They are vloggers. They have silver play buttons. And I sit over here with just 300, 400, 500 subscribers over here. Okay. So that is how students, they know more than us. So don't fill the whole minute of the session with you teaching and you writing on the board. The next most important thing that we as a teacher need to understand is the learning style of students. Understanding the learning style of students is very, very important in learner-centered teaching. Now, we always have this misconception. When the student gets a F grade or he fails, we always think that it is because, he hasn't understand anything. Isn't it? He doesn't understand, he doesn't have knowledge. Okay, because he doesn't know the subject, he fails. Yes or no? Could you type in a yes or no? The student fails because he has less knowledge, lack of knowledge, isn't it? Yes or no? Could you please type over there? No. Okay, very good. Manoj sir, no. Yeah. No. Now, it is not only because of lack of knowledge. It could be he has difficulty with your style of teaching and he has his own particular style of learning. Now, the success of a teacher lies in you should be able to identify the student's learning ability or style of learning. That is why Walter Book-Barb and Neil Fleming, they came out with the Vakt learning styles. Visual, Pratyaksha, Drishya, and we tell Sanskrit. Some students, they would prefer visual style. Pictures, symbols, colors, shapes, and all that. Some would be auditory, Shravana. Those students, they will prefer listening. Yeah, they don't mind you talking. They can grasp from what you talk. They read aloud and learn. For them, it is very difficult to stay in a hostel room. Some, they are kinesthetic, tactile, sparshana. They need to touch and feel. Physical movement, activities. So, these are the various styles of learning in which students might fall in. Not only students, even we teachers. Because, always when we go to a class, we need to prepare. Sometimes, some of us, you read a book, you'll understand it quickly. Some of us, you go for YouTube videos, you see a video, you understand it quickly. Some of you, you need to, feel it, touch it. Programming, you need to type it, you need to see the result, you need to see the errors, then only you'll get it. Okay, so just type, what is your style of learning? Because, teachers are lifelong learners, isn't it? What is your style of learning? Just try whether it is visual, try typing whether it is visual, auditory, or tactile. Okay, let's see what is your each of your style. Okay, I'll type mine. I am more of a visual. I need to read. For me, reading. Yeah, I need to feel the book, hold the book, feel the paper, flip the paper. For me, whatever I learn online, lots of PDF books, everything online is there. I read online. The next day, I forget everything. It's interesting to see majority of the teachers are visual. Okay, might be because we are from the older generation where you never had these PDFs, PPT, and all that. Majority of this of us are visual. Yeah, mixture. Very good. There are people who are mixture of styles. Kinesthetic, yes, sir. Kinesthetic, it makes learning enjoyable. Yeah, exactly. But if you ask students, they might go for a mixture of everything. They might go for a mix, and even subject to subject, it might differ. Subject, yes, sir. Without auditory, principals would complain. Correct. Subject to subject, sometimes the styles would also differ. Now, the beauty of LCT is you should be able to identify what kind of category students are. Sometimes they might follow another kind of learning style, inductive, deductive. Inductive, like, they observe things around them, and then they come into a theory. Inductive. Deductive is the reverse. They first learn the theory, And then they look around them and then they relate that this particular thing is related to this particular theory. Some students are inductive learners, some are the reverse, deductive. There are even another category of learners called global and sequential. Sequential, like, you're very systematic, step by step. You need to understand things step by step. And that is how you build up a logic and come to a solution. Then we have global learners, like, somehow they understand it. Like, it is just like assembling the jigsaw puzzle. Somehow, you bring in everything. At the end of the day, the picture is solved. So some of our students, they could be sequential, they could be global, they could be inductive, deductive, visually, auditory, tactile. They could be a mixture of all these. Now, the success lies in accommodating all these learner styles. Now, I have two questions over here. Should teachers accommodate learning style differences, or should the teachers give the primary responsibility to the students? You can just type in over there 1 or 2. If you agree for teachers should do everything, accommodate all the learning styles and then do all the job, type in 1. If you feel that teachers shouldn't do it, the primary responsibility should be shifted to the students, type in a 2 over there. 1, teacher should do. 2, okay. 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 So, LCT, what they say is, both aren't wrong, but they say that the most realistic approaches help the students to be aware of their own style. Okay, it is a mixture of both. Help the students to be aware of their own style. And the second is, you have to be responsible for that. Vary your teaching methods so that everybody in the class are happy. Nobody is totally disadvantaged. So it is actually LCT, both 1 and 2. Students should be able to understand their style and you should be able to accommodate it. Now you can do it with a mixture of things. You can balance the material. Have a mixture of concrete information where you have facts, figures and all that, and even abstract where you have all these theories. Okay, have patterns, have logical patterns. Give a lot of attention to the tactile learners, sensing. Take them out to the environment, take them out to the field, take them out to the community, take them to an organization, let them feel it, let them sense what is happening over there. Let them do an experiment. Use a lot of computer assisted tools. Nowadays, many things are available. Use a lot of sensory equipment. See that you play a role in LCT such that all the learner styles, they are accommodated in your class. Now, teaching inclusively is the heart of LCT. All students are different. Now, leave apart your learning styles. We teachers, we normally have style might be the front row or the front 2 rows. Okay, our attention or our eye contact, it doesn't always go to the last student in the last row. We treat it as if some students never exist in your class, isn't it? Imagine, one day a student asks me a question and I'm unhappy about it. Next class onwards, what I will do is I will assume that, I will imagine that that student is not there in the class. I imagine him to be invisible. Okay, I have a group of students who tell me all the answers, who listen attentively to my class, who always look at me, take down everything what I write, what I tell in the class, take down all the lecture notes. I will be focusing on them, isn't it? We unknowingly we do all these. We do all these, and there are a majority of students who are left out. Okay, you have students who score very good marks in your subjects. We focus on them. Okay, the other class we leave it out. Okay? So these are a few problems which all of us teachers encounter, knowingly or unknowingly. We do all these. Now, even though we try incorporating LCT into our education system, there are a lot of barriers which come across. The main barriers are You will have a large class. You will have a large class where, LCT, learner-centered teaching, learner-centered education carrying out is difficult, poor facilities. Okay, you do not have you do not have infrastructure to take care of it. You have prepared less. You have limited teaching learning materials, accountability of the institutions. All these are barriers to LCE. Now the question comes, is learner-centered education a best practice or not? There are several institutions which follow learner-centered education, but interestingly, there was a research paper which came out in the International Journal of Educational Development, which came out with a multi-pronged approach to implementation. And it pointed out that learner-centered education is an implementation failure. Not that learner-centered education is a failure. The way in which it is implemented in many institutions, it is a failure. It is equated to as tissue rejection. Like, imagine you're doing a kidney replantation or a transplantation into a body, a liver, a kidney, or a heart transplantation. There is always this resistance to this foreign body. Okay, the same way, even this best practice, if you think of the best practice as learner-centered education, it will have all these kind of resistance, both from the students and even from the colleagues. So, students, they will not prefer learner-centered approach. Could you tell me why they will not prefer? Could you please try typing in your chat? Why might students not prefer this? Okay, have you ever thought students, will they prefer learner-centered approach? Yeah, they'll feel targeted. Yeah, you'll call out students, isn't it? No ready-made material. Yes, sir. They will have to learn. Too much work for them. Yeah, some may think that need to speak out. Continuous work. They have to work a lot. Responsibility. Exactly. Exactly, sir. Very good. It requires more work. They are threatening. They will not get all these PPTs, no notes, nothing. Isn't it? They have to develop things on their own, develop content on your own. It is threatening. Lot of losses, isn't it? Losses in the case like, you don't get material, marks. You have to develop your own content totally for the student. It is a loss. And some students, they're not ready for it. That initial resistance, that glitches, that will always be there. Not only students, even your colleagues, they will criticize you, isn't it? They'll always tell, you might not cover the syllabus in time. You go for these new approaches like learner-centered, you will not finish it on time. They will even say, only the best in the class, they will be able to do it. It is not suitable for everybody. And also, you will also have that tension. Oh my God, till now I was teaching them the whole syllabus, and now, I'm shifting the responsibility to them. How will they do it? Okay, so even your colleagues, they will resist. See, I have a small clip art over there onto the right. They have this odd man out over there. Of course, you will be the odd man out if you try to implement learner-centered approach. Just tell me, in which column, which row do you have the odd man out? Okay, let your brains work a bit. Which column, which row? Which column, which row? There is an odd man out. Second row. Which column? Which column? Yeah. You have it in the second row, 10th. I have to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. The second row, 10th column. You have an odd man out. So, your colleagues also would resist you doing a learner-centered teaching. Now, one strategy is you can create the climate for learning. You can give them a topic, make them do an activity, think of it to be an icebreaker, let them do it. The second one is very interesting. You can make the students summarize. This is what many of us do, but you can do it in a different approach. Let them summarize it in the next class in the beginning. Okay, and then you can make them cross-check their notes. Is it what they understood in the previous class? Or you could make them check, and then their answers would be wrong. You can find out where they went wrong and why did they go wrong. That is another strategy, making students summarize. Another strategy is like, lessons learned from the first exam. This is actually very beneficial when you do MCQs. Like imagine you have 4 choices. The student has 4 choices. Students, they always have this mentality, like, they see all these 4 choices together. They have a doubt, is it the first one or the second one? And they pick the second one. Okay. After some point of time, they will feel, oh, it isn't the second one, it is the first one. And then they'll rub off the second one and then do the first one. That always happens. Why does that happen? That happens actually because they are not sure about the concept. Okay. They are not sure about the concept of that particular question or that particular content in the class. So, you can even get lessons learned from the exams. Why did they go wrong in a multiple choice question? That is because, that particular topic, if majority of the class went wrong in it, that particular topic was not understood by the students. Now, at the end of the day, it will be a good news. Students will really benefit from learner-centered education. Now, you can start with like, form a small team in the class, let them lecture. Okay, you sit comfortably over there, let them lecture, let them have a discussion. You can make them sit in a circle. Okay, you also sit in the circle together with them. All are partners, you are the senior partner. The moment you are out of the circle, they feel you as a boss. Sit together with them. Don't talk anything. Let them talk. Let them do all the talking, let them do all the discussion. The best way for a teacher not to talk is put a pen in your mouth and then, bite that pen. That's it. The moment you feel to talk, that urge comes to talk, bite your pen a bit more stronger so that you won't talk. Let them do the talking. Okay. Don't dominate. Don't be a boss. Don't give answers to all the questions. As I told you earlier, you are not a walking encyclopedia or a vending machine. Let them find it out. Let the students find it out. They have all these gadgets. They will find it out. They will dig up for the answers. Okay. A few activities which you could do is like, normally all these small classes, they have these kind of questions, isn't it? Find the area, find the perimeter. They have this absurd looking figure. Just type in a yes or no. Do you remember this kind of doing all these kind of mathematics in your school? Yes or no? Find the area, find the perimeter. Okay, what rubbish it was, isn't it? But you can give them a much more better question. Draw the plan of your house and then find the area, perimeter. It's the same thing. At the end of the day, it is the same thing, but a much more learner-centered. You don't give them a figure. Instead, you give them the activity. Let them take a measurement of their house or their room or their table and let them find the area, perimeter. Learner-centered. Okay. Another experimental way of solving is when we do subtraction. My maths teacher in my class 1, she taught me you should always go from the left. And till now, all these many years, I always go from the left. Okay, I've never thought, what if I go from the right? But I've never attempted to go from the right because my class 1 maths teacher, she told me never go from the right, go only from the left. So, I've never had a chance to do something from the right. Okay. So like, these kind of problems, let them try solving it. Don't tell them how to do it. Let them try to find out. At the end of the day, when they get the answer, that was the correct method. Okay. That is another way. You can give an experimental way of solving. Okay. Teach them to take a risk. It will boost their creativity. We are very comfortable, like, might be for the past 10 years, you have some lecture notes, you're teaching the same subject, you're very comfortable with that, you will teach only that. And imagine the syllabus is changed. You will be completely against the change of the syllabus because you are comfortable with the old syllabus. Students are not like that. They are ready to take a risk. Let them take a risk. Okay, you should also be ready to take a risk. When there is a change of the syllabus, we should adapt ourselves to the change of the syllabus. Only if we are ready to take a risk and adapt ourselves, we can teach our students to take a risk. If you are always ready and comfortable with your 20-year-old student notes, which you still take to your class, you can never teach your student to take a risk. Okay, I'll just detail about a few best practices which happen across the world in several universities. The University of Toronto, all these universities which I'm talking, they have mastered in learner-centered education, and they have found it to be a success. They did have all these initial glitches, as I was telling you, the student resistance, the colleague resistance from the management. But at the end of the day, after a period of time, it is a success in all these universities. In University of Toronto, they follow a pattern of think, pair, and share. Okay, students, they're given a topic, they think on it, they do their own research, and then when they come to the class, you make them pairs, and then they discuss their ideas, and then they share it to the class. So this is an activity which is done in University of Toronto, Canada. Think, pair, think yourself, pair with a partner, and share it to the whole class. Another best practice which is happening in Carleton College in their Science and Education Resource Center is concept test. Concept test. This is usually done for the STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It was actually designed in the Harvard University by Eric Mazur. Like, you focus only on a single question or a single concept, on a single concept, and then you give a few MCQs. You don't give questions which have big formula, equations, and all that. As I told you, this is usually used for the science subjects, physics, chemistry, mathematics, computer science, and all that. But only the concepts are being tested. They're very clearly worded. They are not high-end questions, intermediate difficulty, which almost all the students can understand and give an answer. So at the end of the class, you give these concept tests, or in the beginning of the next class, you give these concept tests, and then you're able to make students a part of the learning. Sometimes what they do in Carleton colleges, they make the students itself design the concept test. A student in the class or a group of students, they take up the responsibility to make up the concept test. So again, the responsibility is lifted from the faculty to the students. University of British Columbia in Canada, they follow clickers. Clickers, online education, now we use it a lot. Like, you allow students to have these personal response systems or mobiles or tabs in their class. So before you come to class, you feed in a few questions, you come, you take your topic, have a discussion in the class, and then shoot these questions onto the devices. Students give the answer, they are able to know their results then and there. We have all these online tools for that now, Kahoot, Mentimeter, and all that. The University of British Columbia, you do it in a very systematic pattern. Okay? So this is one kind of a learner-centered approach which is being used, clickers. In Tufts University, they follow a concept called 1-minute paper. At the end of the classroom, at the end of the class or the session, the teacher gives us 1 or 2 questions, very short, small questions. Like, did you find today's session useful? Anything you did not understand? Do you want to learn more? Okay, and the students, they give short answers for all these. You can collect it via your Google Forms. Okay, if you're collecting it via paper, there has been a study that, 4 1-minute papers can be valued in a minute. Okay, so if you have 40 students in the class, you just need to spend 10 minutes. And if it is through Google Forms, within a minute, you get all the answers at your fingertips. So, you'll be able to know whether the student has understood the concept or not. So that is what is done in Tufts University. In the University of Colorado, they have something called ILD, Interactive Lecture Demonstrations. This is very interesting. This is used there for their science subjects. Okay. You describe an experiment. Okay. The aim of the experiment and the procedure of the experiment. You do not tell them what is the result. You make the students guess what is the result. The students will guess what is the outcome of the experiment. Okay. Once you have got all the outcomes from all the students, you show the result of the experiment and then you explain it. Learning happens over there. They are able to understand where they went wrong, why they went wrong. They're able to discuss, they're able to reflect. This is a photograph taken from the University of Colorado, how they are doing interactive lecture demonstrations. Very interesting. They have a student standing on a chair over there. I'm very doubtful whether we Indian faculty would ever allow a student in your class to stand on the chair and listen to your class. Another LCE method is concept maps used in the Carnegie Mellon University. This is interestingly even used by many of our students, or many of our presentations, even in the schools nowadays, they use these concept maps. Like, you explain a big concept, and then the students, you make them draw a map, draw a concept map with the linkages. Like, trees, they give you two things. They give you oxygen and even they give you wood. Oxygen, you use it. It is important for humans, for plants, for animals. Wood is used to build houses, papers, furniture, and all that. Think about any topic in any of your subject. You can make students build up the concept maps. You can make them share it among themselves. You can make it publicly visible onto the board. So give the responsibility to the students. You just do the basic explaining. The drawing, let them do it. Tutorial worksheets. This is something which is followed in the Queensland University, Australia. Now, here what happens is they do give guided worksheet to the students, which explain how you solve the problem. Okay, so in the guide sheet, a paper, all the steps, the logical steps are given on how to solve a particular question. And the teacher doesn't explain it. Okay, you give these guided worksheets to the students, and then what you do is you make them sit in groups, in small groups, and then they discuss it among themselves. You shoot a question to them, and then they try to get the answer. The only job of the teacher is the teacher, he roams around each group, check whether what they are doing is correct or not. Learning happens over there. And the responsibility of you, it is shifted onto the students. This is a very effective LCE technique which is used in the University of Queensland, Australia. University of Illinois in Chicago, they use problem-based learning, which is again another LCE. You pose a question, a realistic question, of course, like, I put a very funny question over there. Which is heavier, a pound of feather or a pound of lead? Okay, so you can type in a chat box. If pound of feather is heavier, type in a 1. And if a pound of lead is heavier, type in a 2 over there. Manoj sir, equal weight. Same. Yeah. We know it is same because, both are a pound. But, shift the responsibility to the students. Let them go out. Let them find a lot of feathers. Let them weigh it, a pound of feathers. Let them weigh a pound of lead. And let them weigh it together and see if the weight is correct. I just gave a very simple example over here. The same way you can give them questions, give them problems. Make them into groups, make them solve it themselves. They will do a lot of research. In the process, they will find how to get feathers, from where is lead produced. You handle lead, your hands will become black. It's messy. Feathers, they're allergic. They give you a sneeze. They learn a lot from it. They learn how much is a pound, how much pounds make a kilogram, collaborative learning, all that happens over there. Problem-based learning. Harvard University, they use a very interesting technique called JIT, just in time teaching. So here what happens is, before I go to the class, I tell my students what I'm going to learn, what I'm going to teach. And then I give them homework on that particular topic, which I am about to teach. And then I see to it that they give me all their learnings before I enter the class. So before I enter the class, I am able to understand what the students have understood from that particular topic. I analyze all the responses. And then according to what my students have understood, I adjust my lectures. Initially, this will be a bit difficult. But the interesting part is, after you analyzing the response, you will know that half of the topic the students have learned by themselves. Only the remaining half you need to do. Okay, so you adjust your lectures accordingly. Either you teach it again in the class with the discussions, or you make the students teach it among themselves. Because not everybody would not have left out the concept. There would be at least one or two students who have understood the concept. Make them teach the others. Your job is over. Just in time teaching. It's done in Harvard University. Rochester Institute of Technology, they have something called invention activities. This again, they do it for their engineering subjects. So before the lecture, an analytical challenge is given to the students. You make them try to solve it. They try to do a lot of learning. They make their own predictions. They make their own formula. They make their own models. They try to get an answer for it. It could be wrong. It could be right. No issues. If it is wrong, you can always correct them. If it is right, very good. Let them test it in the class. But anyway, the students have put in effort. Effort is more important. Effort is more important than the accuracy of the attempted answers. This is what Rochester Institute of Technology, they've been following. Invention activities. Kent State University, they follow a very interesting thing called group test. They do a lot of LC techniques. And then the way in which they test it or assess it is very interesting. They have 2 levels of test. So the same set of questions, they give it to each individual student, and then the student attempts it, and then you have a mark for the student. The same set of questions, now what you do is, you make the students sit in groups, and then make them attempt it again. Each group, imagine if you have 5 students, the group mark will be the mark of all these 5 students. And at the end of the day, for that particular assessment, you take the average score. It might be a bit difficult for us Indian teachers to digest group mark, taking it the average and all that. But this is what is followed in Kent State University for some of their courses, some of the subjects. Very interesting it is. There are several other methods. You can use computer simulations, you can use games, you can use case study approaches. You can have problems which you target to groups. And you have the most interesting thing which we Indian teachers do, random calling. Okay, you call out a student. Hey, Manu, tell me the answer. That is random calling, which we are very experts in, writing with peer review. Give them a topic. Let them prepare a writing on it. Let their peers review it. At the end of the day, you can do a reviewing. You could even make out research papers from that. Encourage your students to write. So, we've seen many best practices which have been adopted across the world, various universities. But whatever be it, LCT, learner-centered teaching, learner-centered education, child-centered teaching, all these are the same concept with different terminologies. They never replace traditional lecturing. It enhances it. The traditional lecturing part, it will always be that, but you enhance it in a much more better way. You do not spend all your time lecturing. You even lecture, But you make it much more interesting by shifting the focus from yourself as the boss to the students. So, I'm finishing up the session. As we all know, we are now into a new age called the information age. We need to discover new techniques. Students, they need better methods of learning and teaching models. Okay, our roles, they have been altered. A small virus there in Wuhan, it's changed our lives completely. Okay, students, they are experts and they bring their expertise into the classrooms. Okay, they would love to interact with the teachers, they would love to interact with their peers, but the only problem is we as traditional teachers, we never give them the opportunity to do it. So give them the opportunity, give our students the opportunity, let them interact, let them brainstorm. They have better ideas than you. They have better ideas than me. As I told you earlier, when I go to teach programming in a class, in front of me, there are students who've got a silver play button for their app developments on YouTube. There are students who are active bloggers. There are students who do projects and make money. Okay, and I'm here sitting in my class, starting with how do you write an algorithm? Okay, so that is how the world is today. We need to change our focus. We need to change our focus from the traditional teacher-oriented to learner-oriented. Okay, so that's it for the day. If you have any questions, as I was telling you earlier, it isn't questions. All of us are peers. We can always have discussions. Okay, we can discuss on anything. Yes, ma'am. I do have a very interesting observation from Nagaraju, sir. Unless the students are participating, learning is difficult to happen. Exactly, sir. If you take the current scenario, online teaching, the students do not participate. The learning and the teaching is of no use, and learning never happens, especially in the online scenario. We should make the students participate. These kind of techniques are very interesting. Like, students will love it. Only thing is, it is our inertia. We always have this inertia because, as I told you, imagine I am a teacher who teaches, let's say, theory of computation. Okay. I have my old notes, the notes which I learned in college. Very good. I still refer them. I teach all them. Okay, I make my students do all those problems, which I did many years back, because theory of computation syllabus will never change. Okay, so I need to move from that. Effort needs to be made from each of our side to move into a new scenario. Because, as I'm telling you, our students are, they are from a different generation.
Yes, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Jyoti,
ma'am. Ma'am, first of all, thank you very much for this wonderful session. Ma'am, my question is that how we can involve each and every student for this participation. Actually, once we tried the learner-centered approach, only few students actively participate, and rest will
yes,
not do anything. That
what
is
is your class strength? What is your class strength?
Ma'am, 50. In online mode, it is more than 90, but in offline mode, it is 50. So offline mode, it is easy, but how to take involvement in online mode, that is the difficulty.
Okay, ma'am, a technique which I use, there could be many answers for this, but I will just highlight a technique which I use and I find it very impressive. When I do my online class, I have my attendance register with me. On my side, I have the attendance register, and then I mark the students whom I call out today, and I make sure that I do not call them out the next day. So what happens is, like, if I call out a 5 or a 6 people today, if I have a 60 strength class, by the end of my 10th hour, I've made sure that each and every student has participated. So I'm calling them out. But imagine I am assigning them to groups.
Yes, ma'am.
You can make sure that all of the 60, they take part in that single activity. But when
Right,
just calling out a student or giving a responsibility to a student, I mark it always. Because 60 students, I go to different classes. I even forget names sometimes. So
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember. So what I do is I mark, and then I go on marking on the same sheet. And then once that sheet is over, I go on to the next sheet. That is what I follow. I think that might be useful for you, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. I will definitely try it, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, I've got a question from Mahendra, sir. It is very difficult to introduce such a system in our country. Sir, we ourselves are the difficulty. That is what I always think. If we try to take the initiative and introduce it, it will take up. The only thing is, as I was telling you earlier, we are always comfortable with our didactic teaching, the traditional style of teaching. So, we are never, we have this initial inertia to introduce a new technique. Might be we might not be able to introduce all these techniques together. Might be for one class, like, imagine you're taking sessions for 3 semesters or 3 classes in this particular period. Or technique you can use for one class, technique 2 in another class, and technique 3 in another class. Okay, the next semester, once the students are comfortable with that, you can use technique 1 and 2 in one class, technique 3 and 4 in another class, and technique 5 and 6 in another class. The only thing is we should be ready to do it. Students, there will be inertia. Our colleagues, they will criticize you. But we should be bold enough to take it up and then introduce it. As I told you, a technique, that is enough. Or technique in a semester in a class. Next semester, increase the number. That is a way in which you can do it, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ann. This is Manoj Lewis from Mangalore. It was really wonderful, madam, listening to you. Madam, I am a big fan of your possibly former principal, Dr. Joseph Injoji, but I'm not sure whether sir continues as principal or sir has retired. He was one of the, the NAAC community member, and he was a very creative person, because when I was with him for 3 days, I thought that 3 days of listening to him made me a different person. So I'm little excited to know, madam, in Rajgiri College of Social Sciences, which is the technique that you all follow? Any specific technique that the college or the department has identified, this seems to be very, very effective, and it's going well for you all. Yeah, because you shared host of, the, what I should say, the methods that we can do it, but then the method you are following and you believe that you are reaping the benefits.
Okay, sir, the college as such, generally, we do not have a method which is being followed.
Okay.
Department-wise, course-wise, faculty-wise, they follow their own methods.
Okay.
To talk with respect to the management department, we do have case studies and simulation games from the Harvard.
Okay.
That is being used over there for learner-centric.
Okay.
If you talk about my department, computer science department, we do have interactive lectures.
Okay.
Where we develop and show. And we give the students questions beforehand. We make them try to do it, come out with an answer. If you go into the social work department, they have a fieldwork based approach.
Okay.
So department to department differs, faculty to faculty it differs, and so on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
On a personal note, Injoji sir, yes, I've been trained under him.
Yes.
A very good person to work with. I'm indebted to him. Like, I was a person who never thought of even registering for a PhD. And he was the person who made me register, see that, I complete my PhD on time, and then do all that. he was the executive director. Now he's retired. After his
Yes,
retirement, he did
yes.
work for 5 more years with us. And now he's leading a peaceful, happy family life. after his
Yes, ma'am.
retirement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your session. Please do convey my regards. Manoj from Mangalore, sir, will definitely not forget my name. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Manjunath sir was talking about the Vedic education system. Like, if you think about the earlier Gurukul system which we had in India, it was more learner-centered. The gurus or, the age-old sannyasis, what they made is, they made the students learn from their surroundings, learn from observations. It was just a bit of a class, a bit of a teaching. And then afterwards, might be after 2-3 hours, what the Shishyas did was, they used to help in the household work. They used to go to the forest, find their livelihood and all that. So that was even like, that is why in the beginning I told, learner-centered education, it is not a new concept. It was there from the Sumerians, from the age of Sumerians, where, students were made to learn by themselves.
Ma'am, shall we wind up the session? Are you willing to take any more doubts?
I don't mind questions. If anybody has a question, I don't mind answering it.
Participants, if you have any doubts, you may raise your hand on your Zoom application. Ma'am, I think that would be all. Thank you, ma'am, for the enlightening session. It was enriched with small activities and tasks that the participants must have surely enjoyed. By that, we will move to the vote of thanks. I invite Mr. Prashant Pereri from the Department of Commerce, St. Mary's College, for the vote of thanks.
Hello. Hello.
Prashant sir, yes, you're audible.
Am I visible?
You're not visible, Prashant sir.
Am I visible?
No, sir.
Think.
Yes, sir. Now you are visible.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Resource Person, Dr. Ann Baby, respected Principal Father Denny Cholapalli, our most valuable invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening, one and all. It's my privilege to express gratitude on today's invaluable session on how a student or listener can be a central point in the teaching process. The session was highly informative and enthusiastic, which we could see from the chat box and the post-presentation session. I believe all who attended the session are blessed with the indispensable information on the topic. I thank Dr. Ann Baby on behalf of my institution for her precious time and effort for making this session highly fruitful. Thank you, ma'am. This 7-day faculty development program is made possible only with the immense support of our beloved principal. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Father Denny. Thank you, Father. I thank all participants who genuinely engaged in this 4th day of our FDP. Thank you all for your high level involvement and cooperation. Thank you. I also thank the coordinators of this event for giving me an opportunity to be a part. Thank you. Respected dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I would like to say that we all are most grateful to all the speakers on this forum. We thank you for your great participation this evening. It is a great pleasure. All the best for your successful completion of the FDP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. A note for the participants, the feedback link has been put up in the chat box. You can scroll up to view the link. That's all. That will be all for today. Thank you, Dr. Ann Baby. and today there will be no assignments. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Or should I have given assignments?
No, ma'am, it's not compulsory.
I didn't know that.
That's okay.
Have a good day. Bye.